I've helped hundreds of creators find their perfect recording tools. Let's do the same for you. Navigating the maze of recording software can be daunting, especially with so many options out there. But there is a simple process I've used that's helped hundreds find the perfect fit. Every week in the groups I'm part of, and when we onboard new clients into our content engine service, the question of how to record comes up. Recording software is the critical link between your minimal home studio that I talked about in this video and your final content. To help answer the question, I steer people toward a simple decision-making process I've used both for $100 million technology decisions when I worked at Microsoft and other large consulting companies, all the way down to $10 apps of what should I put on my phone. The first step is to think about and write down your specific requirements. What are the must-have and nice-to-have features that you need? And remember that things like simplicity, ease of use can be important features. Second, research and create a short list of products and solutions that meet most of your requirements. Third, review the feature lists and specs for each of the ones on the short list. In a simple spreadsheet, check off all the must-have and nice-to-haves that each choice provides. Fourth, choose the top 3 from your list that cover the most features. Fifth, sign up for trial accounts and use each of those candidates. Make your final choice and use it. So let's break each of those down. First is recording software requirements. The first step is figuring out and writing down your requirements. Doesn't matter what anybody else uses. That's the thing that I see in groups all the time is people ask, hey, Jane, what do you use for your recording software? And Jane may have a $50 million online business, right? And a $50,000 home studio and a staff, so what that person does has no bearing on what a solopreneur or individual creator might be doing. At the same time, they may ask a peer who is sort of in their same category, what do they use? And that's not a horrible question to ask, but really you have to ask about how did they even make their choice? What were their requirements? Are they the same as mine? A fitness person recording outside in Hawaii is going to have a whole different list of requirements than somebody like me recording inside of a sealed up studio and stuff like that. So the first step is figuring out your specific requirements. Start with what you plan to record now and in the near future. So here are some ideas. Are you recording yourself face to camera like I am? Are you recording yourself moving or on the go? Are you recording interviews with one or more guests in addition to yourself? Or are you recording interviews with, one or more guests remotely in different locations? Next, think about how you plan to create your content. Will it be pre-recorded or will you stream your content online or some mix? Will you live stream your content to one or to multiple destinations? These are all questions that factor into requirements because some software supports some or all of those and some don't. Next, think about your recording setup. Will you have more than one camera or microphone? I've got a camera here and I've got a camera over there, and I have 2 angles that we go back and forth with in most of my videos just to break it up a little bit. In your case, maybe you'll have that, maybe you'll have more, maybe you'll have less. Will you be presenting materials like slides? Will you be mixing in pre-recorded videos or other media into it? These are all good questions to think about of what you want to accomplish. And each one of those that you say yes to becomes a requirement that you need to write down so that you can evaluate the candidates when we get to that step. Now, beyond that, there are other requirements that often make sense to include, like do you use a Mac or a PC? It needs to support one or the other or both. Do you need local high resolution recording of your content? As compared to Zoom has pretty crappy recording content. So, if you're doing a professional podcast, you're not going to record just on Zoom because of reasons why not. But if you have that requirement of, I've got remote guests and myself, I want it high quality back and forth, that's going to narrow up your set of choices to different options. Do you want automatic cloud recording? A big one is resolution. Are you going to record in 1080p or 4K? What's your target resolution for your content? That'll factor in or factor out solutions also. There could be a lot more, but these are the essentials to consider, and then write down the ones that apply to your specific goals. Now, I hope you can see that just by asking that basic list of 10 or 15 questions, your answers are going to be very different than somebody else's answers and somebody that you're seeing online. That's why I always try and recommend to people, it's like, it doesn't really matter what anybody else is doing unless you know their requirements and whether they match to yours. So hopefully I've landed that point. That's really the most important one in getting to a decision that's going to make the most sense for you. So now let's say you have answered those questions. You got 10, 15, 20 requirements. The next step is to research and create a short list of candidates. So with your written down requirements in a spreadsheet, it's time to find some potential solutions. So a simple Google search like best recording and editing software in 2025 will usually return reviews and round up posts that can be helpful. Then you can ask in Facebook groups and other communities what other people use while also listing your requirements so that you can get some good feedback. But like I said, don't use that as the basis of your choice because theirs are likely different than yours. The main idea is to ensure we have at least the top 5 to 10 of our requirements and our must-haves are captured. And what we do next is we have to assess each candidate's features. features. So most software websites and things like that have a features and spec list page, you know, the table with the checkboxes of what it does and what it, you know, its competitors don't do. That's what you want to look at and then compare it to your requirements list. So I like to start with my spreadsheet, go to candidate number 1, look at the spec sheet and say, yeah, it claims to support 4K. It claims to support this, and this. And then I basically get checkboxes on all of those requirements. I do that across the couple of candidates that I have to help me get down to like a finalist and say, okay, this is the one I'm going to spend some time taking a look at and, you know, maybe checking out. Now, like I said, for each of the requirements, check to see if the candidate claims to meet them and then check mark each one that it does. Do that for your top couple of candidates at least, you know, choose the top 1 or 2 that cover the most of your requirements. Now, if none of them meet all of your major requirements, then you need to look for more candidates. So knowing this space as I do, there'll be several good choices in almost all cases. With your top 1 or 2 candidates selected, it's time to test drive them. And what I mean by that is evaluating, get a free trial. This step takes some time, but helps you make a very solid decision. Create trial accounts, use the software, and see if it meets your requirements. It may take some time to learn it, as you know, some of these softwares can be a little bit complicated, but since this is one of the most critical pieces of your tech stack and your whole content marketing, it's worth spending some time on it. So as an example, I'm going to show you what I use and why. So after going through the above process, I landed on 2 solutions. For recording, since I currently use a Mac Studio and a laptop and answered yes to almost all the potential requirements I mentioned, I use Ecamm. Ecamm's the most full-featured of all the solutions for Mac. For PC, a similar high-end solution is vMix. Ecamm lets me record locally at high resolution, stream anywhere, lets me mix and match any type of content, whether it's slides, screen share, pre-recorded, and it can also handle remote guests and interview recordings, as well as stream into Zoom. For editing, I use Descript, which lets you edit video like a Word document. For the basics, it's much simpler than using other editing tools that are out there like Premiere Pro or DaVinci. In our content engine system and in the professional service that we deliver to people, we use both. For the real editing of YouTube videos like this, we have professional editors that use DaVinci for that. But for all of our repurposing, we use Descript to chop up videos and turn it into different assets and so forth. So what should you use? Again, that depends on your specific requirements, which is the point of this video. But people still want simple answers. Here's my general recommendations based on the most common requirements. Again, if you need an advanced setup for Mac, use Ecamm. For PC, use vMix or OBS. If you just need a simple setup and you're not streaming, use Descript, which now also includes a thing called Squadcast, which helps you work with remote guests and remote recording if you do interviews. Descript works for Mac and PC. If you just need a simple setup and are streaming, then I would recommend StreamYard for streaming and recording, and then Descript for editing. So again, I highly recommend you go through the requirements process, but having worked with like hundreds of people making these decisions, usually it comes down to those choices that I mentioned or things that are very similar to them. Now, once you've made your choice, it's worth watching tutorials and training to make sure you get the most out of it and so that using it becomes second nature. You want to remove all the potential roadblocks from creating content. You don't want the tech to be a barrier. So here's how to take action. If you don't already have an editing and recording solution in place, now's the time so you can create more revenue generating content in 2025. So the first step is think about and write down your requirements. The second is research and create a short list of products and solutions. Third, review the feature list and the specs for each of them. Fourth, choose one of the top 1 or 2 from your list that meet the most. And then fifth, evaluate each candidate and make your final choice. If you want my help and all of our tools for establishing a content engine where we help you plan, create, edit, repurpose, and publish your content, check out the links below this video and be sure to watch this one next.